Welcome to the Total Soccer Show, and congratulations, you are living in a world where the 2025 summer transfer window is open. Unless you're listening to this show in about a week's time, in which case it's no longer open, but we'll get to that shortly. On this episode, we'll take a look at the mechanics of this window, the big deals that have happened, the big deals that may happen before the European season kicks off in August, and much, much more. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, hey, it's your friend. My friend, Taylor Rockwell. Hello, Taylor.
Hello, Ryan. Does this mean it's officially summer? Is that how we can track it? Can the transfer window being open be a sign of summer?
It's officially hot transfer window summer, Taylor. Yeah. Congratulations, you're there. We've
Woo,
made it.
dollar signs and fax machines.
Yeah.
Or pound signs? Or euros? I forget which one we're supposed to use.
It's all just money. It's all just swirling around out there, Taylor. It's all pretty ethereal. It is indeed. Talk about someone who's not made up. It's Mr. Joe Lowery. Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm here. I'm checking. I feel real. Guys, it feels real to be here. I love the transfer window. Give us like 12 mini transfer windows throughout the season instead of just the two big ones. I'll get amped for it every time. This is the best time of year.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it, that Joe likes the time when there's no European soccer as opposed to when there is European soccer. Interesting. Noted. Okay.
I like transfers. They're shiny.
Yeah, they sure are. Tell you who else is shiny. It's our friend Graham Ruthven. Hello, Graham. How are you?
Hello, Ryan Bailey. Not that shiny. It's Monday morning. I'm never that shiny.
There he is.
Monday morning.
There's our guy.
Shiny, happy Graham here on Monday morning, reporting for transfer window duty. Graham, I feel like this time of year is this very much your time as well, right? You love a transfer, don't you?
Oh, I do indeed. Everyone's got hope. About a couple of weeks ago, I was down in the dumps with Stirling Albion, and now we've made a couple signings. Weirdly, we've signed the best player in the league above us. Not entirely sure how we've done that, and all of a sudden I've got... next season, maybe that's the one. Inevitably, it won't be the one. But right now, the bliss, the ignorance of that hope is getting me through.
Hold on, Graham. So who is this player? And is the way that they've signed him like that he got a job in Sterling as a lawyer or something?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
is going to play soccer there?
Inevitably, it is that. Yes, I mean,
new laundry machine. I think.
Right.
Big signing.
What kind of player is he? Tell me more.
We've signed Ross Cunningham, who was top scorer in League One last season. We are in League Two. We're not even a good League Two team. And he is like an attacking midfielder who can play as a number 10, play out wide, which is exactly what we need. So everything seems really good right now. I look forward to seeing how that one collapses next season, as will inevitably be the case.
What lies were told to this poor young man to lure him to Sterling?
That we're not Stirling Albion, that we're an entirely different team. It was the Mission Impossible mask thing. Yes, we are Dundee United.
I think, actually, Taylor, he didn't have a choice because they activated his release clause, which was a meal for two at TGI Fridays.
That's how we signed Ryan Bailey in the very first place. Is anyone else surprised that Joe loves the transfer window? Joe, who, like... I feel like it is, I guess, about, dollars and cents, it makes sense. But that feels like a very... I don't know, headline-y thing for Joe.
I'm not allowed to have fun. I've cultivated such a nerdy brand
Correct.
that I can't enjoy the transfer.
So you're allowed to have fun, but it's like by measuring rulers
right.
to make sure that
Gotcha.
the ruler is
that
the
pass
correct
was actually 14.1 yards long rather than 14.3.
It's the exception that proves the rule. It's like the one everyone has one character quirk. Like mine is loving Disney World so much, which makes no sense for me and my character. This is Joe's loving the transfer window and all the transfer gossip.
There is I think there is, and this is actually I think interesting. The reason why I enjoy the transfer window so much is I think it's fascinating to think about the different types of players that exist, first of all, and how they'll fit in different teams. I think there's a very real sense that the transfer window and talking about players moving to different teams is just as much a tactical discussion as it is anything else. So it totally fits within my nerdy brain. It just is a different outlet for that stuff.
Wonderful stuff. More on that nerdy brain very shortly indeed. Just before we mention patreon.com/Total Soccer Show for all our bonus content and the best way to support us. We've got bonus episodes, bonus video, and access to our Discord server where all of us are hanging out, including the cool kids. Coming to the Patreon feed this week, we have an episode on the CONCACAF Champions Cup final between Cruz Azul and Vancouver Whitecaps. No spoilers, but the scoreline very similar to the other Champions League final we had from the weekend.
Bit of a spoiler.
Man,
you'll never know which way it swung.
Tune into patreon.com/Total Soccer Show to find out a please and a thank you. And as a reminder, if you're not already subscribed to us on YouTube, go do that. Go click on YouTube and find us, and Graham will vogue for you. It's his thing.
Did you do the other parts of your morning routine, Graham?
Kiss the badge. This is a moral support jersey that I'm wearing today, and you'll see that on YouTube. Maybe another spoiler as to which way
right.
that
Graham's
final
wearing his Cruz Azul shirt, as you will see on YouTube. Very good indeed. Let's get to the transfer window. Actually, Graham, before we get to the specific deals we're going to talk about, let's learn about this window and why it's a little bit different. As I hinted in the intro, it's closing for a few days.
Yeah.
Why and when?
Well, so we'll get to that. So first of all, as you say, Ryan, technically we have 2 separate transfer windows this summer, although fans might not notice much of a difference because there's only 5 days between the two. So the first transfer window opened on Sunday, June the 1st. It'll close again on Tuesday, June the 10th. Then it will open again on Monday, June 16th, and then it goes all the way until September 1st. And the complication, the answer to your question of why, Ryan, is the Club World Cup. And it's another one of those things where nobody seemed to really consider the challenges of this tournament and what it would bring until about a month ago, when it was announced that there would be this kind of split transfer window. Now, we were talking about this before we started recording. I and Joe and Taylor were under the impression that this was a FIFA stipulated thing, that you can only have 12 weeks of a summer window. I then read a BBC article that directly contradicted that and said it was a Premier League thing, so a bit of confusion there. I would suggest that maybe the BBC article is incorrect and it is a FIFA thing. And so there is this 5-day break to allow it to run until the end of August, which is traditional for the transfer window to end at that time. And FIFA has also changed its rules to allow players to be registered from June 1st as well, to allow those teams that are playing in the Club World Cup to have the players that they've signed actually play in the tournament. And we've already seen a knock-on for some of those clubs, most notably Real Madrid, who have already got a couple of deals done, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Dean Huijsen. They're spending money to get players and managers as well out of their contracts early for the tournament. I think Chelsea have also moved quickly for Liam Delap to potentially get him in the squad for the tournament as well. It seems like something is potentially going to happen with Cristiano Ronaldo as well for this tournament. So there has been accelerated business for a lot of teams, but for a lot of other teams, there won't be much change in a practical sense.
So, just so I'm clear, it's closing so that the window doesn't exceed 12 weeks, which
That's
is
correct.
a FIFA rule. Does the summer not usually exceed 12 weeks then? Is this a longer summer?
This is a longer summer window. Normally, the transfer window doesn't. I think you can register players normally from mid-June, but most leagues, their transfer windows don't open until July 1st. Yeah. So
Okay.
It's shorter than 12 weeks normally.
Very good. So we have
It's like when schools start school on like a Thursday. So your kids have like 2 days of school, and then there's a weekend, and then school resumes normal session. It's like the
soft launch.
Yeah, exactly. The soft launch of the transfer window. Thank you, Joe.
What kind of monster school district starts on a Thursday, Taylor?
I don't know. They're all monsters, so.
That's
All
the
right.
spirit, Taylor. It's summer now. We're trashing the school district.
Exactly, dude. It was Monday morning, and my daughter turned to me and said, I don't like it when it's not the weekend. I'm staying home. And I didn't really have a compelling argument for why she was incorrect.
Yeah, that tracks.
Wait until they start questioning homework. I still don't have an explanation for that one. So you mean I'm in school for 7 hours a day and then I have to come home and do extra work? Yes. Why? Just because I said so. It's just the way it is.
Wow. We are really tearing the system apart today. Glad to
know.
hear it. But let's get back on track, Taylor, with the transfer business. Why don't we start with Liverpool, who already have some done deals. As we mentioned, Trent Alexander-Arnold has gone to Real Madrid, and they've paid an extra $10 million for the privilege of having him out in the States this summer. Jeremy Frimpong has already arrived from Leverkusen as well, who'll be strengthening that right channel for Liverpool. What's going on at Anfield, Taylor?
I don't know. They're good, and they're like smart, and they're doing smart signings. It's great for them. Congratulations, Liverpool. Must be nice. No, I mean, they're doing smart things. They really are. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold was gone for a while, and even if he has only just recently left, we have talked about how the Frimpong signing is not a like-for-like replacement, but it is a very smart signing. And I was reading a piece in The Athletic that basically goes through his whole history. And he, I think, wanted to be in the Liverpool Academy, was scouted by the Liverpool Academy at a very young age. But essentially, his mom was, I think, taking like 3 buses to get to work, and basically they just couldn't make it work. So he ends up in the Man City Academy, bumps around, and now here he is back with Liverpool. So it feels kind of faded. It feels like it's a really good fit. Everything about him is pretty positive, including like a lot of discussion of his locker room presence and how
his personality is.
Yeah, exactly.
Like some of the videos that Liverpool put out of his medical and stuff. I enjoyed people hearing him speak for the first time, because he grew up in Manchester, so he's got that sort of Amadou Onana accent on the go. So yeah, fans are going to love him. He's a real personality.
Yeah, so I think it's a really smart signing, and he gives them different looks. I think the rumored signing of Florian Wirtz, which seems like it's going to happen. He's apparently already buying houses, or has already bought a house in Liverpool. So that feels like another good signing. So you get 2 Leverkusen fellas coming in, and Wirtz, I think, similar to Frimpong, is going to bring different looks to the Liverpool Swiss Army knife. They're not going to revolutionize the system with him, but it gives them new wrinkles, new looks, new adaptability, and I think it makes for 2 very smart signings to start the window.
Yeah. Joe, Florian Wirtz, as Taylor mentioned, apparently a 110 million bid rejected by Leverkusen, but it looks like it is going to go through. This is some Leverkusening of Liverpool, which is a positive thing, it seems.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, if you can go and pick players from any squad that is outside of the absolute best of the best, Leverkusen would be really high on my list. I came out when this reporting first started and talked about how I'd be surprised if Florian Wirtz ended up at Liverpool because of the price tag. It sounds like this is going to go ahead, and if that is in fact the case, it's a pretty good testament to how good Florian Wirtz is, and we've watched a ton of Leverkusen over the years. But when a club like Liverpool is going out and splashing this much money on somebody, they have tended to hit on a lot of those players. Not all of them, right? And transfers are a business fraught with mistakes and unforeseen challenges. But man, Wirtz, I think we all know, is a very, very technical, really skillful player. He can be an attacking-minded midfielder in a 3, depending on how Arne Slot wants to set up this year. He can certainly join the front line. He can play a little bit wider and cut inside. He's a more creative option, I think, than Dominik Szoboszlai. Although Szoboszlai is no slouch himself. But Szoboszlai is maybe a bit more powerful and a bit more aggressive defensively. And Wirtz can cover ground and does get involved defensively, but doesn't have the same physical profile and is more inclined to pass the ball into dangerous areas. He is a more technical and proficient forward passer. He ends up, last year, looking at the 2 numbers, he ends up playing more passes into the box, playing more progressive passes than Szoboszlai. He is going to add a little bit more when Liverpool need to break a team down. Although Szoboszlai, I think, is really good. I think we'll have a huge role in this team again next season. I like him a lot. I like his game a lot. I think he has more to offer this team than the 6 goals and 6 assists he had last season. But Wirtz is a player. Like all of the big teams who could realistically afford him wanted him this summer. Liverpool, if they end up making this thing happen, they're going to be a lot better off for it.
Yeah, he's a different kind of, or a slightly different kind of profile to the attacking midfielders that they already have in Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott. I would say he kind of changes the profile of Liverpool as a team, but I think between the shift in dynamic that's happening at right back, where Liverpool are losing Alexander-Arnold and his creativity, and they're bringing in Frimpong, who's very much a sort of vroom right back on that side. They were never going to replace Alexander-Arnold, so it's very much the Jonah Hill and Moneyball quote of having to replace him in the aggregate, and signing Florian Wirtz is partly how you do that. I mean, he's a dribbly boy, right? Not only is he a good passer, but he completed more dribbles than anyone else in the Bundesliga this season. He's in the top 10% for players in his position for assists, big chances created, dribbles, non-penalty XG, passes into the box, key passes, shots, through passes. So he's a one-man creative attacking hub. He's got a bit of versatility. You can use him, I guess, in a kind of slightly wider position, but I think you want to play him as that number 10, And what I find interesting is that this is Liverpool kind of going back to having a kind of like an orthodox number 10, where obviously a key part of their development under Jurgen Klopp was selling on Philippe Coutinho and replacing him with more sort of runners from midfield. And now it feels like Schlott is taking them back that way, and that seems like a natural thing for Liverpool to do in this progression of them becoming a more astute possession team, which they're already up there as it is. But yeah, I think he is a blockbuster signing who will only elevate the level of Liverpool, and it says something about potentially how they're changing direction as a club, because keep in mind this is Richard Hughes, the first full summer that he's had as the new sporting director. So things that we knew to be the case about Liverpool, like maybe they wouldn't previously spend 130 million euros on one player, maybe those things are going to change, and this is the first indication of that.
Wirtz was on my list of favorite players to watch this season. I find him really engaging every single time I watched Leverkusen, every single time I saw him play. And I read another profile of him, all about reading youth profiles this weekend, with his youth coach talking about his processing speed and how that was something that was kind of already there, but then they helped cultivate in training, but how good he was at reading game states, reading situations, and understanding what was required. And so you can see that in the way he plays for Leverkusen. If it's a one-touch pass, it's a one-touch pass. If it's a dribble through traffic, it's a dribble through traffic. If it's maybe slowing it down and finding the right option, he kind of knows the situation as the situation develops. And that, to me, is Liverpool and the way they want to play with Arne Slot. And I think like the thing that we've already kind of stressed is maybe it requires a little bit of reconfiguration. Maybe it's Szoboszlai coming out. Maybe it's him coming in. But maybe if they're playing a team that requires a bit more physicality, maybe it's Szoboszlai starting. But I think it just gives them different looks. But Wirtz himself can be such a difference maker and be such a squad player at the same time, or role player, teammate, whatever it is. I just think it's such a smart signing, even at the price tag for as young as he is, as good as he is. I think he immediately makes that team better.
I'm now picturing your weekend, Taylor, and your wife sort of shouting up the stairs, "It's lunchtime, Taylor, come down." "Not now, darling. I'm reading another Florian Wirtz youth report. I'll be down shortly."
She would not bat an eye at that, but it would be more confusing that she was the one making lunch.
Okay. Not sure if that shot's fired or not.
A little bit.
Very well. Joe, I was going to say that arguably for Liverpool, they have the hardest window here because there's only one direction they can go in the Premier League, right?
Yeah.
So it's an important one for them. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and maybe I'd argue that Arsenal and Man City both have a much bigger task on their hands in this window. So we can start with Arsenal, who is this window all about getting that elusive, fit centre forward? Is it Gyökeres, who I think we're going to be targeting? And also Martin Zubimendi as well, who's wanted by a number of people. It seems like he's been in the last few windows an Arsenal target.
Yeah.
Is this when they land their man?
It seems that way. And to answer your first question, is this all about the striker? No, but I do think that is a huge part of this for Arsenal. And I'll start there before we hit Zubimendi.
Nodding.
And then there's also Graham's left winger discussion point, which is entirely fair and should be brought up as well. For Arsenal, Gyökeres is somebody that they've talked about according to reports, which, duh. Also, Benjamin Šeško feels like one that maybe they're even a little bit closer to. Sky is reporting that Arsenal's sporting director held a secret meeting, with his RB Leipzig counterpart.
So secret that we all know about it.
Yeah, awesome. So apparently they've met to discuss the transfer of Benjamin Šeško. The release clause for him is £69 million, according to reports. Šeško is 22 years old, Slovenian. He's just turned 22 as well. To me, he is one of the... Not just to me. He's one of the highest profile strikers on the market this summer. He is a pretty well-rounded striker, good in the air, growing in his hold-up play, sees space well in the box. He does like classic number 9 things for Leipzig. He is still young, and I interpret this as a lot of teams out there looking for the next Alexander Isak, where there's going to be a little bit of a betting in period, but you see the potential, you see the ability that they have to impact you, and you're not having to pay upwards of £100 million or whatever it is. So Šeško is certainly someone to watch. Gyökeres is as well. These guys, it sounds like, are going to go somewhere this summer. It's more of a matter of where. On the Zubimendi front, and then I'll be done and cede my time. With Partey, seemingly on the way out this summer, right, as this contract winds down, Zubimendi is an awesome ad. I have enjoyed him so much. I don't think it's a surprise that Mikel Arteta continues to profile and go after, as Arsenal go after players from Real Sociedad. He is this lone 6 who's going to fit in really nicely at the base of their midfield. Now, the way that Sociedad and that Zubimendi has often played that number 6 role differs from how Arsenal use it, where he's played a lot as a single pivot over in Spain. In Arsenal's setup, it is a lot more of the double pivot, right, where someone comes in and joins that deep line midfielder to build a line of 2 in front of the center backs. But Zubimendi is a tempo setter. He is fantastic on the ball. He breaks lines with his passing. He's not quite as dynamic, I think, as some of the other players that Arsenal have used in that spot. And that includes Declan Rice as well, as he's moved higher up the field. But he's an awesome player. Like, he is so clearly a great target for Arsenal, which, again, given how savvy they've been in a lot of their business, should not surprise anybody.
There's a reason that he's been linked with Real Madrid in this window. Of course, Liverpool famously last summer felt like he was going to go to Liverpool, and ultimately he decides to stay at Real Sociedad. Liverpool actually activated his release clause last summer. I do wonder what Arsenal have told him, how they've convinced him to join them this summer. Maybe he's going to get a loan of Win the Dog for the season. That could be the other reason, Joe. But I'm a big fan of Zubimendi as well. It's been widely reported that Arsenal have now met the conditions of his release clause. He is currently with the Spain squad for the Nations League this week, so as soon as that is out of the way, I would expect that one to To move quickly in terms of an official confirmation, and I think it's really interesting. I think this is somehow linked to Declan Rice, where Declan Rice comes into this Arsenal team as a 6. It seemed like that was the conventional wisdom, that he was going to be that midfield anchor. And he has evolved in a way where he's now something else. He is just like a complete central midfielder. You want to kind of unleash him a little bit. And so having that single pivot midfielder that Joe mentioned is a way that you do that, and you would struggle to find anyone better for that position than Zubimendi. Yeah. So, yeah, he's a great ad.
I mean, yeah, and I think, Graham, to your question of, like, what have they offered him? I think they've offered him the starting, like, central midfield spot for Arsenal next season in the Premier League, basically, because now you can have Odegaard, you can have Rice as the more advanced kind of box-to-box guy, then you can have Zubimendi sitting in, Partey gone, as Joe said, Jorginho, I think, also leaving, so you don't really have a ton of competition there. I think it's going to be a really fascinating summer for Arsenal, because it does seem like all that the fans want, all the media are writing about, is a number 9, is a striker. That's going to be the difference. That's going to be the thing they need. I did not read any youth profiles on anybody related to Arsenal. I did read different briefings from journalists who cover them day in and day out, or week in and week out. And I feel like, reading between the lines, it doesn't seem like a number 9 is the priority. If anything, it feels like it's the 4th priority, maybe, for them this summer. I would say Zubimendi seems to be number 1. Then it seems like maybe a wide attacker is where they're kind of trying to identify a player who could play wide and play centrally. But 2 different journalists covering Arsenal, when asked about the number 9 spot and like what will happen with Kai Havertz, both of them saying, I think Kai Havertz is going to start a lot of games, and they really like him, and they really like the versatility he provides. So I don't feel like he is just kind of going to be shipped out, moved on, shifted into other spots. I think he will still be in that conversation. So it feels like they have options there. Maybe they want a little bit more depth, but maybe out wide is where they feel like they need a little bit more talent. And then renewals. It's a really difficult situation. Andrea Berta, the new sporting director, or relatively new sporting director, kind of has his hands full. If you run through the list of players with deals expiring in the relatively near future, it's Partey and Jorginho this summer, it's Tomiyasu and Zinchenko next summer, and then the summer after that, it's Trossard, it's Saka, Saliba, Gabriel, Martinelli, and Jesus. You've got a lot of contracts coming to near the end of their time, and you don't really want to let that linger. So he is going to be, I think, Barca, trying to do extensions and make sure that people are here for the long term, and make sure that there is guaranteed return on investment if those players are then moved on to other clubs. But then also trying to strengthen the squad at the same time, also trying to find value, also trying to bring in a reliable backup goalkeeper, maybe a younger backup goalkeeper. I think they were linked with Espanols, but now it might be difficult to bring him in if he's not going to be starting. So it just feels like there are a lot of different issues, none of which are like super pressing. I would say Zubimendi is probably the biggest one, filling that hole in the middle. But it does feel like there's so much little work to be done. That is still very big, important work, but that to me is going to be Arsenal's summer. And so I think supporters might end up slightly frustrated, but I think if they renew a bunch of those names, they bring in reliable depth, they get a number 9 who's maybe younger, but like can come in and be an exciting game changer, I think that is all like signs of progress, basically.
Yeah, I think there's a nervousness over Saliba in particular, who is, by all accounts, getting the Mbappe whispers from Real Madrid, or the Alexander-Arnold whispers, whatever you want to call them. And so there's an effort to tie him down as quick as possible. I think the number 9 discussion around Arsenal is really interesting. And Taylor, you're spot on to mention that maybe the framing is off, where a lot of the discussion around Arsenal is they're going to go and get this world-class centre-forward who'll elevate their level. And actually, if you speak to Mikel Arteta, he sees Kai Havertz as that figure. And so maybe bringing someone like Benjamin Sesko in, I mean, I'm a massive fan of Benjamin Sesko, but he has still potential, right? That could be a smart move, but not in terms of dropping him directly into the starting lineup. Maybe he has given us
on the bench too, for what it's worth. Like got dropped for Leipzig for maybe perceived lack of effort.
Yeah, so maybe it's a depth centre forward. I would be shocked if Arsenal didn't add a player in that position, but maybe it's not necessarily going to be a starting number 9 that they land.
You cannot have Rasmus Højlund, okay? No matter what you do, Arsenal, no matter how much you come in and spend on him, you may not have him. He is not for sale. Do you think this is going to work? Is the reverse psychology going to work? I hope they're not listening to this part.
Yeah, the reverse Man United tax. I like what you're doing there. Very good indeed. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, the rest of the Premier League, we're going to look at some of the big deals that are potentially happening there and the rest of Europe. Do join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our transfer window focused episode. Joe Lowery, Manchester City, got a rebuild on their hands, haven't they? What do we think is going to be the priority for Manchester City this summer? Where will they start? Where will they strengthen? And will it work?
Yeah, it seems like they have their eyes on a number of different spots. It looks like they're looking at bringing in Reinders from AC Milan to play in that midfield group. It looks like they're eyeing a more advanced number 10 sort of player. Florian Wirtz was in discussions, and that doesn't seem to be happening. And then it seems like they're looking for players at both outside back spots, both a left back and a right back. They are varying degrees of far along, at least as far as it's been reported, on all of those different things. The most recent reporting is surrounding their pursuit for Rayan Cherki from Wolves as their left back option. David Ornstein's reporting that he has emerged as the top target in that spot, and it very much seems like that's going to be something that happens for City. They're looking at a lot of stuff. They were busy in the winter window as well. This is a sign, as you said, Ryan, that they have a little bit of a rebuild on their hands. The name that I am most excited about, though, that out of all these players that have been talked about and linked to Manchester City, is Rayan Cherki, who I think is so much fun, plays for Lyon, has been around for a long time. I think he broke in at 16 with that team, has played in the French youth national team setup. He's been a name for years and years. The reason why I love him so much is that he is sort of a Ricky Puig-esque approach to soccer at times, a little less extreme, but he is incredible on the ball. Like, he is a visionary dribbler. He's got actual great passing vision, good distribution ability, can play as sort of a more advanced member of the central midfield group, can play a little bit wider and cut in on that left foot. He's just awesome on the ball. He is not a great defender. He has not almost ever been all that engaged on the other side of the ball for Lyon, and that's mostly been okay. Like, his attacking talents have warranted him continuing to earn a ton of minutes because he is that good on the ball. I don't think that's going to fly in Manchester City's system. Like, that's not going to fly for Pep Guardiola. And so one of two things are going to happen. This is going to crash and burn if this deal gets over the line, or he's going to become an awesome defensive player to go along with the attacking stuff. And that makes me so excited because, listener, if you have not watched Rayan Cherki play, he rules. So I hope this happens because then it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's a bit of a throwback player in that sense, Joe, like a sort of quintessential number 10 who maybe doesn't do a lot working back the other way. And so he seems like, I wouldn't have pegged him as like a natural fit for Manchester City for a Pep Guardiola team. So it's interesting that they are so interested in him, and this one seems to have accelerated in the last few days, the fact that they are in discussions with Lyon. And you're absolutely right, Joe, when you watch Cherki, he's just exhilarating. Taylor, I know you'll have been burned by him when he scored a couple of times against Manchester United in Europa League when he was very good. But this season he had 12 goals, 19 assists. He can play as a central number 10. He can play on the right side. He always wants to come inside and have lots of touches of the ball. He's good in tight spaces. He's good in the dribble. And that price point of 40 million euros is interesting as well because, as you mentioned, Joe, Man City have backed out of the Florian Wirtz race. And I think previously under cheeky boy Begiristain, Man City might have stuck with Liverpool there, where we saw them sanction a lot of high-value deals in his last few seasons as sporting director. So Jack Grealish was 100 million, Josko Vardio was like 90 million euros as well. There was a couple others, Ruben Diaz I think was 70 million euros. So Man City really pushed the envelope in that sense. And now with Hugo Viana coming in as the new sporting director, it seems like the roles have almost reversed between Liverpool and Man City, where they're looking for a little bit more value in the transfer window to get Thierry Reinders in for a reported 60 million euros, to get Cherki in for 40 million euros, to get Rayan Cherki from Wolves for, what's the price, like 35 million euros, 40 million euros for him. So what Man City are doing this summer is really interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all pieces together.
With everything you all have said about Cherki, my question then, how much of next season is he going to spend in the Pep Guardiola decontamination quarantine chamber, where he has to kind of everything he's learned previously has to be removed? He has to kind of understand the exact way that Pep wants him to play. Otherwise, you get the Jack Grealish treatment. Do we think half
he's
a
still
season,
in there?
A full season?
He's just a husk in that chamber now. He's been in there
Grealish
for the
claw
last 4
marks
years.
all over that chamber. Yeah,
He's like the warning sign, like when the prisoner is thrown into the dank cellar jail, and there's just like the skeleton that's
There's a
Jack's
skeleton
been in
in the
here
corner.
for years.
Yeah.
The Grealish skeleton.
Yeah, great calf muscles on that skeleton though, all the same.
wow, the best. Yeah. Taylor, what realistically, what do you think Man City will do? Do you think like a wholesale changes? Could we see like 4 or 5 new players in the starting 11 at this rate, or do you think it's going to be a bit more subtle than that?
I truly don't know, because reading about their business this summer, I for a moment thought, like, is this them knowing that charges are coming, that they know that things are happening, so they're trying to be maybe tightening up the budget a little bit, making sure they don't overspend? Then I remember that they spent plenty of money in January. So it might be that they've already sort of added some depth in areas that they needed and want to give that some time to get the preseason in and figure out where they are from there. But I think overall, it is a very small squad that Pep sort of trusted and utilized this season, even though, as we've already talked about in other episodes, he said he needed to trim it down further. But I do think this is a team that needs new blood, new variety, and I think new challenges for Pep as well. So maybe with Cherki coming in, maybe he's not the conventional Pep player or the conventional Man City player, but maybe he adds different dynamics that Pep has to work with and find a way to mold. And I do think Pep likes a challenge more than anything. And I think new challenges, new ways of approaching the game will always kind of keep him engaged and keep him interested. Plus a rebuild, plus a nobody believes in us, everybody is against us chip on his shoulder. That feels like the makings of a resurgent Manchester City team.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, as exciting as a lot of these deals are for Man City or will be, it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't see a lot of them for like the first 6 months of next season, because Marmoush was brilliant after joining in January. The others, Kusanov had that debut, then didn't feature for like the last 10 games of the season. Nico Gonzalez, we didn't see a whole lot of him, and I don't think Vitor Rice has played a single game for Manchester City. So Pep likes to take his time with integrating some of these players, and there's more of a need for him to do it now. But yeah, I still think we'll see the kind of traditional core of this Man City team start this season, next season.
Joe, do you take personal offense, as I do, that with all this talk of needing a left back, Jedi Robinson has not been the name that they've gone after?
Yes, I'm livid, clearly,
Correct.
and I'll be
Cool.
taking it up with the proper authorities in this matter. I'm just, the steam is coming off my forehead.
You can
right now.
see the anger.
Yeah,
It's very clear.
hatred
Forehead
even,
steam
maybe.
everywhere. Yeah, it's crazy.
Hatred.
I'm personally quite anxious about our Premier League preview episodes, where we'll have to try and figure out where Man City are going to finish next season, because I don't know. It's a lot up in the air.
First,
there.
Wouldn't it be like, not for Man City fans, but wouldn't it be kind of fun if they did start the season with like a negative 40-point deduction? They won't, but like it would be amazing to see if they could survive, because I feel like they probably could.
It'd be amazing to see if you survive after saying stuff like that when their lawyers come for you, Taylor.
I know.
We'll see. Anyway.
Bring it
Moving
on.
on.
They don't know where I live. It's
Sounds
pretty
like a
easy to figure out
challenge.
where I live.
No one give out Taylor's
Taylor, what about that
assassination
hand,
coordinates.
that hook that's just about to hook you away behind you? Watch out.
Do you guys see that red dot? What is that?
Chelsea! Let's move on to Chelsea, shall we, Graham? As you mentioned, Liam Delap seems imminently on the way, if not already by the time this podcast has concluded. What else have we seen? Nico Williams, I think I've seen his name bandied around Chelsea a little bit. What needs to be done at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah, so top of the list was a centre forward. As you say, Ryan, they have activated the release clause in Liam Delap's contract. He was at Cobham undergoing his medical yesterday, so this one will surely be announced soon, maybe in the next few days. I like Delap, especially at that price point of £30 million. He makes good runs, he holds it up well, he's good in the air, he's decent running with the ball towards goal, scored 12 goals for Ipswich when they gave him basically nothing to feed off in the Premier League last season, so he's certainly got potential. The issue for him at Chelsea is going to be game time. Does he start over Nicholas Jackson? And there's also the suggestion that Chelsea could have another big transfer in them for another centre forward, someone more experienced like Victor Osimhen, who's obviously surely going to make a move this summer to an elite level team. So Liam Delap could be third choice for the start of next season, which, look, that's maybe right at a team like Chelsea, given he's still young and has only had one season in the Premier League. But for his career, to go to Chelsea over some of the other options, like even Nottingham Forest, Everton were interested. I actually thought Everton would have been quite a decent fit for Liam Delap, where he makes that jump up and then there's another jump beyond that instead of going to Chelsea. But nonetheless, he is in the door, and it seems like Chelsea are now prioritising a right-footed left winger, which I've read a number of different places in The Athletic and The Guardian. That doesn't bode well for Jadon Sancho, because that's what he is meant to be, although I was reading that Chelsea are still interested in keeping him. They just want to negotiate his wages down quite significantly, so good luck with that, Chelsea. The Guardian are reporting today that Chelsea are weighing up a £50 million offer for Jamie Gittins at Dortmund. There's interest in Alejandro Garnacho. Of course, they tried to sign him in January. He's been pushed out the door at Manchester United because he's got too much talent, apparently.
No, you can't have him. It's too expensive. No, you can't have him.
The reverse psychology is going to work on someone,
it.
Taylor. And Nico Williams has been mentioned as well. I haven't seen any concrete reporting of Nico Williams, and I know that David Ornstein was reporting a number of months ago that Arsenal's interest in Nico Williams is legit. But the thing with Nico Williams is if anyone is to sign Nico Williams, you have to pay the 60 million release clause in one big chunk. So that makes things a little bit more challenging, especially for Chelsea, who like to spread payments out over a decade. But it does seem like they are going to go for a wide player. It just remains to be seen who that player will be.
Graham, going back to the Osimhen aspect of this, do you really feel like that's a thing they could do? Like, I know Chelsea like to spend money, already have spent money. I think they've already signed 3 players, all of whom are 20 years of age or younger, and then you had Delap into that one. You really feel like adding Osimhen, it wouldn't make sense. I guess it does feel like a Chelsea thing to just add in 3 number 9s, and let's see what happens. But that would surprise me, I guess.
I mean, it makes sense in that Osimhen is better than all of the options that they have, and he elevates the team. There's just a political and dressing room issue, as you say, Taylor, of, well, what about Delap that they've just signed literally in the door? But Chelsea have done that a bunch of times. Like, that's what they've done in the last few years, so I don't think they're too bothered about that. They very much take they're owned by private equity, and this is very much a private equity mindset. Like, let's buy players at a young age at a good price point and see which ones fight out to the top.
And also Osimhen?
How old is Osimhen now? 25? Yeah, he's certainly not as young as the others, but
I would have guessed way older than 25.
26.
He's 26,
Wow.
so I wasn't
I was
far
right.
off.
I would have guessed
Way
older.
older.
Is he definitely done with Napoli? Is that a no-go?
I don't see how there's a way back for him at Napoli. Yeah. With De Laurentiis, that was the big thing last summer. He fell out with him, didn't he?
I think just do the patented just kidding. I was just kidding. I love it here.
The George Costanza.
Yeah,
just turn up the next
exactly. Just walk in day 1 of preseason. What are you guys talking about? I've been here the whole season. It was a great Scudetto win, huh? High fives all around? No? All
yeah. Well done. No medal for you. That was a no suit for you reference. Didn't quite pan out, Taylor. No,
You want bread?
Joe, any more on Chelsea before we move on?
No, although I would love to. I would love to see Victor Osimhen go somewhere like Chelsea. I still though have love for my boy Nicholas Jackson, and I'm sad that he's getting buried on the depth chart. I think if it's just Delap that comes in, Jackson still eats up most of those minutes up top. I don't understand Chelsea's fascination with trying to find someone who is maybe a tiny bit better than him, but probably not. I don't really get that whatsoever. But
Maybe
if you're gonna get
that's it,
Osimhen, then it works out.
Maybe that's it. Is you bring in somebody and then like Nicholas Jackson looks a little bit better by comparison. Maybe it elevates them both. Like, see, he should be the starter. He is quite good.
Yeah,
that makes sense, right?
Make it happen.
Please don't sign Osimhen. Please don't do that, Chelsea.
All right, Taylor. This one could change your mood. Man United, in their quest to finish higher than 15th next season. How's that going to go? Matheus Cunha, the report's suggesting that Man United have activated his £62.5 million release clause. That might have actually been nailed down.
Yeah,
at
the
this
reports
point.
are Manchester United's Twitter account, which they had a nice wee video yesterday. So yeah, that one's confirmed.
Okay, so that one's confirmed. Very good. And he's obviously gone off to Carlo Ancelotti's Brazil now. So that was all sorted on Sunday. How are we feeling, Taylor? Feeling good?
Yeah. Sure. I think so. I don't know.
You don't
I mean,
seem convinced.
The problem. There's a few things. First of all, he is certainly not the solution. I think to this team there are many other issues that need to be worked out. But at that price tag, you could argue they identified the player they wanted. They recognized him as a difference maker for them. They knew the price. They met the price. It's what you got to pay to get the guy you want. But with the value that we've talked about with other, I mean, that's what, 2 Jeremy Frimpongs? I don't know if he's worth 2 Jeremy Frimpongs, to be honest. Like, there is value out there that I think can do some of the same job. Like, that's the thing, is he's a proven Premier League player and goal scorer and chance creator. He has his issues. We can talk about those. But I still, part of me wants to believe that this is a signing that makes the team better and adds immediate quality. Part of me also can't shake the feeling that this is more of the same in signing a big name for a lot of money. They're also linked with Victor Osimhen, who himself is a big name who wants lots of money, wants lots of control. And that is a signing that would make, I think, supporters really excited, bring in Osimhen and Cunha, and would kind of, I think, sell some tickets, generate interest, but at the same time, it starts to feel like more of the same signing that hasn't really worked for them of late.
Can we can we dig into that a little bit more? Are you I guess I'm not totally sure I understand your point, Taylor. What would the issue be with signing Victor Osimhen?
That, like with Liam Delap, which is who I thought they were going to get. It felt sort of like they had recognized everyone is going to go for the kind of like 2 or 3 big name number 9s on the market. So we're going to do the smart thing and go for the now Premier League experienced number 9 who can score goals but is also going to be cost effective. And it seems like Chelsea went that way, and maybe are also going to go that way with Victor Osimhen too, and they're going to do both.
We'll take them all.
But so instead, you're bringing in a guy who kind of forces his way out of Napoli for perceived, I think a lot of it, I shouldn't say perceived injustices, because some of it is allegations of racism by the Napoli social media account, and then feeling like Napoli didn't apologize to him for those slights or racist abuse is probably the better way to put it. There are different circumstances there. He goes to Galatasaray this season and scores a ton of goals, but it feels like a big ego to bring into the team, and that has not worked for them. I think I am more inclined to believe that if you're sticking with Ruben Amorim, you want players that are going to buy into his system, that are going to kind of have a point to prove and are hungry to prove it. Like we talked about with most of the PSG squad. You get rid of a lot of egos, you get a lot of young players who are all willing to work and do as their coach asks, and I think you can see some of the response. If you bring in players who maybe don't want to do the defensive work, or don't want to be told what to do, or want a little bit more money, it just feels like more of the same from Manchester United. And in Osimhen, you're getting a 26-year-old who isn't exactly like a 21-year-old with a point to prove.
It sounds, Taylor, like you're thinking of ego in terms of like the work ethic side of things, which I think is a fair point. Manchester United need players who are going to work. In terms of like personalities and players who are able and willing to impose themselves on a team, and a club that I think at Manchester United, it's fair to say, is not the easiest to impose yourself on and off the pitch. I think Man United need more egos, and it's part of the reason that I like Matheus Cunha is he brings electricity to the attack. And look, there are warning signs around him that he has overperformed his XG for Wolves. He has attitude issues on the pitch because we've seen them with red cards, with disciplinary issues. I've also read that he doesn't take on tactical instructions. But there are sometimes with Manchester United, with Manchester United, when I watch Manchester United, and Taylor, I know you feel this way as well. You just want to shake them and say, like, do something, like give us some electricity or something. And Cunha is a player who does that, and I think Osimhen is a player who does that as well. Osimhen is the thing that's freakish about Victor Osimhen is you don't really have to have a lot of like intricate attacking sequences around him. He is the best in the world at doing something with a ball that you lump into a channel. He brings it down inside the box and he gets a shot away. He's excellent at that. And Manchester United are a team right now, they don't have a lot of intricate attacking sequences. So if Man United have an opportunity to sign Victor Osimhen, I think they should absolutely jump at it. How they get there, to have the money to sign Cunha, they're also apparently in for Bryan Mbeumo. Sky have had reports this week that there's talks with Brentford with him. ESPN say that they've opened talks with the player as well. If Man United have already signed Cunha, if they're feasibly able to sign Osimhen and they're in for Bryan Mbeumo, the way that you get to that, in my mind, is you sell Bruno Fernandes, which there's a lot of reporting around right now. Al Hilal have opened talks with him and his agent, and with Manchester United, apparently they're willing to pay £100 million to get him. They're willing to triple his salary to £750,000 a week. And because Al Hilal are in the Club World Cup, they want an answer quickly. So it feels like that one could accelerate pretty rapidly if it's going to happen. And honestly, with Bruno Fernandes, look, we can talk about the destination in the Saudi Pro League. If he has decided to leave Manchester United, I can understand why. He has given that club his best years for basically nothing. And so he's probably ground down at this point. For Manchester United, any other club in the world, I would advise them to take that deal. The problem is, with Manchester United, there's no one I trust less to invest that money smartly. But if you're offering me Bruno Fernandes or a front three of Cunha and Mbeumo and a top-level centre-forwards, let's say it's Victor Osimhen, I think in the aggregate, I take that. Yeah. So there we go.
It's a couple things there. I think, first of all, for Bruno, like if it's I don't know, if it's like Chelsea who he plays for, or City, certainly Liverpool, like there's the idea of, yeah, you can take the money, but if you stay here, you're playing at the top level, you're playing in the Champions League, you're challenging for silverware, you're doing all these exciting things, that makes up the difference. This Manchester United team that he has been on is challenging for Europa League, finishing 16th, like trying to win the FA Cup as hard as they possibly can. Like it's not as though it's fun times where he is at present. It is at least my impression of the situation. So it's basically go to a club where you might like struggle and not enjoy the season as it is, or go to a club where you might struggle and not enjoy the season, but you're making 3 times the salary. So I won't begrudge him if he ends up wanting that move. And I think smarter clubs, if it were Liverpool selling a player like a prized asset for a lot of money, I think I would see that as like, yep, there you go. That's the practical planning. That's the practical decision making. They're not letting emotion get involved. They're making a rational choice. To your point, Graham, I just don't really trust the Manchester United decision makers to make that decision. But then also, if they do, to use that money wisely. Those are the same Manchester United decision makers who I'm like not fully sure know that Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho like technically are going to be theirs to start
They're
the season.
They're going to turn up to Carrington at some point.
No, we sold you. We sold you for a lot of money, didn't we? We didn't. Oh boy, that's going to come back to bite us. So like, I think that is where I am with the Bruno sale. I would be really sad to see him leave, but I think it makes sense for both sides. It's just then like, what do you do with that? Because you're losing your only difference maker. You have to kind of change things up and add in more of that. And the final point, Graham, like, yes, they need personality. Yes, they people who want the ball and want to create and want to make things happen and want to score goals. But that level of personality and that level of, I don't know, drive to win with this team of late really quickly turns to, this is for YouTube viewers, it turns to that really, really fast with this.
Taylor
team,
did a backflip if you don't want to watch it.
I did. A full backflip. It turns
Oh, you
to,
can do the splits?
It
Taylor,
turns to
wow.
lots of frustration, lots of splits, but then lots of just visible annoyance on the pitch. And to me, bringing in a superstar name like Osimhen and hoping that is going to be the thing that ignites this team, that feels like decision-making that has not worked in the past, and maybe they're doing again.
The thing that would make me nervous about selling Bruno Fernandes is they're going to have to do that first, and everyone's going to know that Man Utd have £100 million, and all of a sudden that £40 million deal for Brian Mbeumo, which, by the way, if Man Utd get that done, that's a slam dunk deal. I think that's an incredible transfer. All of a sudden he's £80 million.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if there is a good deal to be had, Liverpool are coming in for that player and signing that player, and then it gets to August 31st and Man Utd are spending £120 million on Scott McTominay, which, look, good player, but, you know, you had him already. You wasted your chance.
Dude, I hate how plausible that feels.
Those Man United tariffs. Wonderful stuff. Indeed. Let's take one more quick break. When we come back, we'll look around the continent for some big deals that might be coming up there. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our transfer window special. Joe Lowery, let's learn a little bit about Real Madrid and what's going on there. Obviously not the best season that they've just left behind, but it's all changed. New coach in Xabi Alonso. They got a Trent Alexander-Arnold at great expense for the Club World Cup as well. What's going to be happening with Los Blancos this season, do we think?
Yeah, that Alexander-Arnold thing is awesome. Absolutely awesome. I formally motion that we rename this June 1 to June 10 transfer window the Real Madrid window, because
window.
them shelling out £8 million to get Trent Alexander-Arnold up out of Liverpool 29 days early just rules. Like, they could have waited 29 days, but they don't want to wait. And to be fair to Real Madrid, there's a lot of money on the table for the Club World Cup. Like, doing well in the Club World Cup will make this seem like a sound business decision, but they might have been able to do that without paying £8 million for Alexander-Arnold.
Do the Liverpool fans, do they now boo £8 million less than they were previously for about trying to...
Well, then we got to establish like a boo to dollar ratio, which seems complicated but not impossible. I'll work on it, guys.
It's such a smart move for Liverpool, though. Like, I mean, that's pure profit for PSR reasons, and for a player that was going to leave in a month. Credit to them. I'm assuming for Real Madrid, it is a decision born of, we have a lot of guys who are coming back from injury, who are maybe not fully ready to go, and a lot of guys who are not yet back from injury. I think they have a half a defender on the roster. I forget where they are at this point, Real Madrid. So it does feel to me like maybe they recognized we cannot start off Xabi Alonso's tenure with getting roasted at the Club World Cup and having zero defenders. So that's what I'm guessing this is about.
Or they have the same mindset whenever I buy anything online and I'm presented with the next day delivery for 3 times the price of that. I don't need the next day delivery, but I'd really quite like it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'd like my new toy tomorrow. So
for Real Madrid, this is like, it's an ego play, is what it is. They want to do well at the Club World Cup. They're embarrassed about how their season ended, not winning the league, not winning the Champions League. And they want to get all their shiny new toys Graham style as fast as possible. I think it's awesome. I'm excited to see what this looks like. It's purely chaotic and it's delightful. Dean Howson involved as well. They've already got him signed. Also apparently looking at Alvaro Carreras, who's coming in from Benfica, 22-year-old left back. Just one season of top flight minutes under his belt. That was this past season. I can't claim to have watched a ton of Carreras play, But he is somebody to at least keep your eyes on. That deal is not official yet, but it seems like a possibility as Real Madrid look for a left back, which is not a big surprise.
Yeah, we have. You might not remember his name, Joe. We have spoken about him in the show because he played in the Champions League for Benfica. He's a former Manchester United youth player, so he's been on loan a number of places.
Why,
he's gone to Benfica.
Why?
Just to get, he used to be called Alvaro Fernandes, which is that's. People, Man United fans will know him as Alvaro Fernandes. Same guy. He's now Alvaro Carreras, but he's been at Benfica. He was Man
United that bad to him? He had to change his name.
He's in witness protection.
he didn't want any record of being connected to them.
But he's like an up and down left back. He likes to get forward. He's mobile. And Real Madrid have needed a left back for a while. Ferland Mendy is injury prone. Fran Garcia is still quite raw. And honestly, Carreras is quite raw as well. So they've kind of done the Chelsea Delap Jackson thing of just having two players that are quite similar. But Real Madrid, they've been using Camavinga as a left back for a lot of the last 2 seasons. So they just need another option on the left side of defence. And Carreras looks like he'll be joining.
Question for Joe that I haven't asked yet in this show. Joe, Real Madrid needing a left back. How frustrated, angry are you that they haven't been linked with Jedi Robinson?
I mean, it's just, Taylor, I'm past the point of frustration and actually nearing despondency. It's getting difficult to function and do the things I need to do. Like my morning routine that's not quite the same as Graham's, but it's basically the same.
All right. Elsewhere in Spain, Barcelona, Taylor. Are they going to do anything? Are they going to sell any kidneys or pull some levers? What's happening with Barcelona, do we think?
I mean, yeah, they probably will because that's what they seem to do and find ways to do. I also don't know if they can register players. That's always up in the air, but it feels like they always find a way. They always find a way to strengthen as they need to. My question for Joe and Graham, our noted registered Barcelona lovers and enthusiasts, what do they need, this team? Because it feels like they've got plenty of depth and plenty of options in plenty of different positions.
Yeah, I think the clear need is another attacker, and that does line up with some of the reporting around Barcelona right now, where there's, according to Sky Sports, interest in Luis Diaz from Liverpool, who, I mean, that would be a banger of a signing. Like, that would be a phenomenal addition to this Barcelona team. If you think about this past season for Barcelona, they're attacking players. They had Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, and Robert Lewandowski as their starting front three. They had Ferran Torres as sort of the deputy for Lewandowski and also the deputy on the left. And that's kind of it. As far as the attacking depth in this team went last season, yes, you could see Fermin Lopez play a bit higher at times. Gavi pushed up a little bit at times as well. But those guys aren't at their best in the front line and in more advanced areas. So if Barcelona are going to move for a player, I think they would do well to go out there and find another difference-making attacker. Because it's not just the fact that they're going to be playing a lot of games this next season, which they are, obviously, just like they did this past season. They're going to be at a bunch of different competitions. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of toll. It's not just that, though. It's also that Robert Lewandowski is getting older. And if Ferran Torres is the player that you've ID'd to be the next number 9, that's a YouTube special right there, folks. If Ferran Torres is the guy you think is going to be the next striker for your team in the medium term, then you need to start finding somebody else who can eat up minutes somewhere along that front line. We've also seen Luis Diaz play a bit centrally at times as well. I think going and finding another attacking player for that front three for Hansi Flick is, if you're going to spend money, that is the place to do it.
Taylor, are you going to try the reverse psychology with Marcus Rashford here? There's been tentative links.
No, hands off. He's too good.
Not even just tentative links. It has been very illuminating how Barcelona have talked about all this. Deco came out, their sporting director, and said they like Luis Diaz, they like Marcus Rashford. Flick has publicly talked about both of those players as well. So they're not exactly keeping the cards close to the chest, Barcelona. These are both over the last month or so now.
I'd missed that Deco talking about Marcus Rashford. Obviously, the Luis Diaz link has been around for a while, as has the Nico Williams link. Again, I keep on repeating myself with Nico Williams on this show. Big release clause that needs to be paid all at once. He's on big wages at Athletic Club as well, so that's why he hasn't moved. The other position that it seems like Barcelona are accelerating is goalkeeper. So there's a deal in the offing.
Can't have Andre Onana.
There we go. We're just going to keep going with basically every single. There's a player for every position as well. This bit will never end. Joan Garcia, he is coming in from Espanyol. It seems he has been linked with countless clubs in Europe over the last 6 months. He's been linked with Newcastle. He's been linked with Chelsea. It seemed like Villa a month ago were close to getting him, but Barcelona have stepped in. He is a very modern goalkeeper. Good with his feet, has good goalkeeping like fundamentals, meaning he can make a save essentially, and he's decent in the air. And the thing with Ter Stegen is Barcelona waited the majority of the season for him to come back, and ultimately it seems like Hansi Flick isn't his biggest fan. He favoured Chesney towards the end of the season, even after Ter Stegen was back in the team. He was on the bench. The last game of the season, instead of giving Ter Stegen that game, he gives it to Iñaki Peña. So it does feel like Barcelona are in the market for a new goalkeeper. Whether Joan Garcia is going to go into that first team straight away, I'm not entirely sure. But he is 24 years old and looks like the business. So he's one to keep an eye on.
Wonderful stuff. Graham, anywhere else in Europe we should focus our attention before we close out this episode? Perhaps Kevin De Bruyne going to Naples.
Yeah, that's the big one. I think outside the Premier League, just the nature of the Premier League, everything is in some way to do with the Premier League because that's where the money is, and I guess this one is as well with Kevin De Bruyne leaving Manchester City. But there's widespread reports that Napoli hope to finalise his signing this week. Today I saw it's likely to be a 2-year contract. Chicago Fire emerged as the option in MLS, of course. They were actually offering or are offering more money than Napoli, but I think it's clear that KDB wants to stay in Europe and Napoli will be in the Champions League next season, obviously hoping to retain their Scudetto crown next season as well. And it's the kind of signing that might keep Antonio Conte at the club. Just reading the tea leaves, some of the stuff that's been reported in the Italian press over the last week, seems like he's more likely to stay than to leave now, when about a month ago it seemed like he was almost destined to leave at the end of the season. So this is a statement of intent by Napoli. They're also in the market, I think, for another centre-forward. They want a wide attacker. Alejandro Garnacho has been strongly linked with them. So yeah, it could be a busy summer for Napoli to strengthen that squad, but also keep their manager.
Oh, and the real reason KDB wants to go there is so that he can keep the light blue aesthetic that he's cultivated so well. It's never been about the money for him. It's not about the pizza either. It's just about the light blue. That's
and if it's Napoli or Lazio, then there's no
Graham,
choice.
I just saw a headline that PSG have told Lee Kang-in and Gonzalo Ramos that they'll be allowed to leave in the summer. Does Gonzalo Ramos make Arsenal better?
Make Arsenal better? I think
Yeah.
he makes most teams better. I thought you were going to ask about Manchester United. They would absolutely
that'd
make
be too
Manchester United better. Yeah. Gonzalo Ramos, I saw JJ Bull recently doing a video for Tifo or The Athletic on what Gonzalo Ramos offers in being an all-round centre-forward, making runs in behind. He can come short as well, good on the ball, good penalty box presence. So yeah, I think Gonzalo Ramos should absolutely be on the radar of a number of top clubs, including Arsenal.
Wonderful. There we go. Plenty more transfer window updates coming in the coming weeks, but not next week when it closes, I imagine. But hey, do stick with us on Total Soccer Show for that. But for now, Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much indeed for your transfer nous.
Hands off that Manchester United squad. They're too good. You can't have them. They're going to cost $100 million each. You're welcome, Ryan.
Hands off that, big Sir Jim. He's ours. Very good. Joe Lowry, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much, Graham.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
And thank you, listener, for joining us on the feed. We'll be back very shortly. But for now, bye.